Well, Star Wars Animation did it again. The final 2 episodes of Bad Batch Season 2 felt like the Clone Wars. Both episodes gave us heart-pounding action that kept me on the edge of my seat. The show took a turn in the past couple of weeks, a good turn in my opinion. The laid-back, fun-filled adventure filler episodes stopped. The plot became more serious, and it was slowly hinting to more sinister plans being created by the Empire. We've also been waiting for that exact moment when Sid was going to betray the group ever since we received our first hint early on in the season. I am very pleased with the ending of Season 2. I made a video a couple weeks back talking about how I wanted this season to end. Basically, I wanted to see what the main purpose of the Bad Batch will be. I wanted the show to pick it up a notch in regards to its tone, and it did just that. So, in today's video, I of course want to talk about the finale, and I want to give a few thoughts on what we could expect in Season 3. What I loved most about the ending of this season is that it veers away from the usual results of a show like this. The unexpectedness is what I enjoyed the most, even though it led to some huge consequences going forward with the show. We as fans originally were expecting the group to save Crosshair and stop whatever the Empire is planning. But nothing goes according to plan. The group tries to trace Dr. Hemlock's ship back to his base so they can find Crosshair. It sure looks like this is going to happen, and then boom, out of nowhere, Saw Gerrera comes in and ruins the day despite basically being on the same side as our gang of clones. Saw ruins the mission, blowing up the base, the hangar, and Hemlock's ship that has the tracker on it. But things get much worse. Not only does the plan fail, but the Bad Batch struggle to escape after the tram they are on gets stuck, and all hell is breaking loose. Both stormtroopers and fighters are firing on the tram. Eventually, Tech is hanging on for dear life by a cable as the tram cars are slowly beginning to detach from the track. And then Tech makes the heartbreaking decision to detach himself from the cable so the tram could reattach itself to the rail and for the rest of the group to be able to escape. Tech sadly falls to his death, and Omega is heartbroken. But the group has to keep on fighting, and the tram eventually gets going again, and the tram goes and crashes and everyone gets banged up a bit, but the clones are able to recover Omega and they head back to Sid's bar to heal up. Unfortunately, this is where Sid's betrayal comes in. She ended up informing the Empire that they were there, and half of the group eventually gets captured by Commandos and Dr. Hemlock. He wants Omega. Omega attempts to save Wrecker and Hunter, but she gets captured, and of course Echo then comes. There's a fight that ensues, and Wrecker and Hunter are able to escape with Echo. They all escape in the ship, and then we get a very quiet and solemn scene of the remaining crew sitting on the ship, and Hunter is determined to save Omega. He will go to the ends of the galaxy, basically, to find her. So, we already know part of what Season 3 will be about. Then you have Dr. Hemlock, who brings Omega to Nala Se. Remember, this is the Kaminoan scientist who was friends with Omega during the Clone Wars, and we saw her early on, or saw them together early on in Season 1. Dr. Hemlock threatens to harm Omega if Nala Se does not work on the project requested by the Emperor. Then Omega finds the room Crosshair is in and other clones that are all attached to these tables. It looks like they all went through experiments. Then there's also green tanks with disfigured life forms in there. Maybe they're Snoke clones? We don't know for sure, but then the last bombshell is released when the female scientist Emery Carr reveals to Omega that she is her sister. So that's a quick summary of some of the big moments in which I will be focusing my thoughts on. While we ended the season with more questions than answers, I would say this was a strong finish to Season 2. I also think it's an indication that the fun is over. The little everyday adventures working for Sid are done. The Batch are going to be looking for Omega and the base in Season 3. We are probably going to learn more about Omega and her sister, and we should be getting more of an insight on whatever this project is that Nala Se is supposed to be working on. Will the Bad Batch have a final confrontation with Sid? Maybe. And then, of course, the toughest part of Season 3, at least for the beginning, is moving on without Tech. He became such a lovable character this season and had a lot of growth. Tech was also on the verge of possibly getting a love interest with Fee Genoa, so Tech's death is tragic for plenty of reasons. And I actually did see an article on Screen Rant talking about why it was a mistake to kill off Tech. The article was basically arguing that he had the most character development out of everybody in the group, and because of that, he is very easy to understand and relate to now. The article also brought up a good question. Is Tech really dead? You know, Star Wars does like to bring back characters and have them survive critical injuries, a la Darth Maul and Palpatine, which are two of the biggest examples you could give. Plus, Dr. Hemlock gives Hunter Tech's glasses right before he captures them. Dr. Hemlock could have captured an injured Tech and used him for experiments as well. Tech would be a great subject for whatever they are doing on Tantus because of his unique intellect. I think part of the reason why they find Crosshair to be so valuable for these experiments is because he has always been strong-willed. He was determined to follow orders and believed in the Empire for a very long time. He obviously began to change his mind, of course, but maybe they're going to do something with his DNA or some kind of essence to use that for future cloning or whatever these projects are. I mean, it's Star Wars. You could kind of come up with something off the cuff. Speaking of Crosshair, I also saw a few interesting comments on the internet in regards to a new theory. Some people are saying Crosshair could be Snoke. I mean, they're both bald, and they have scowling looks to their facial features. If this was to be true, I would say that Snoke is probably a clone of Crosshair. I don't think it would literally be Crosshair's body. And of course, this may be a reach, but the idea, honestly, in my opinion, is kind of cool. It would be both wild and emotional to see a character we've been rooting for to go from a possible redemption arc to literally being transformed into a future sinister villain. Now, going back to what the Empire could be doing with their experiments, I found it interesting that in that meeting with Tarkin, Hemlock, also Director Krennic, and other Imperial officials, they were talking about enforcing order and compliance throughout the galaxy. No specific details were given about the plan other than they are trying to enhance the Kaminoan cloning process. I'm wondering if they want to try to find a way to force people into being obedient. Maybe they will find a way to infect or inject people with some sort of DNA that forces them to obey commands and be compliant at all times. Again, this could be another stretch of a theory, but what else could they honestly be doing with DNA besides the Palpatine cloning stuff? Because it seems like there's more going on than just that. This is another plot point I am looking forward to in the following season. I don't have much to complain about with the finale, but there is one thing I could talk about. I honestly wish they never hinted to Sid betraying the group, because I felt like it would have been more devastating to have us viewers be just as surprised as the squad when the Empire showed up at Sid's bar. I mean, you're going from, dealing with a character death and everybody's beat up and you don't know what's going to happen next. They're in a tough state, and then it's like, holy cow, Sid betrayed them. Here comes the commandos and Dr. Hemlock. I just think there would have been more of a shock value if we didn't know that Sid was going to turn. Another issue I had with the betrayal is that they wrote Sid to say that she felt bad for betraying them. She even acted like it too, like she felt bad, she felt remorseful. She told Wrecker that she had no choice but to betray them because of how much heat they had on them. I don't think that's accurate at all. Earlier in the season, she was butting heads with the squad and she threatened to stop protecting them if they did not help her. Basically, she believed they still needed to complete jobs for her in return of her keeping them safe and keeping their secret away from the Empire or anybody else. The Bad Batch wanted to move on, and she didn't like this, and it first appeared that she was going to betray them because she was being petty and wanted to keep taking advantage of them. So, I'm not sure why the reasoning for the betrayal changed when it happened. It didn't ruin anything for me, but it did feel a bit odd. My biggest hope for Season 3 is that the Bad Batch find their true purpose. I did mention this in my focus video. Yes, they want to rescue Omega and protect her again. Are they just going to do that and go back to Pabu and live a normal life? Is this going to be the true ending of the show when everything is said and done? When Hemlock captured Wrecker and Hunter for a whole 5 seconds, he did mention that Tarkin wanted to interrogate them. So I think the Bad Batch are still on the Empire's target list, so they're always going to be hunted down, especially since they continue to cause problems for the Empire. And if Hemlock is successful with his experiments on Crosshair, then the rest of the squad might be targeted next to continue those experiments. Heck, Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett, the creators of the show, could decide to kill off the whole squad too. This could also not even have a good ending. Everything being written right now about Clone Force 99, it's all brand new stuff, so they could really take this in any direction. Now, for me personally, I would like to see the squad work with Rex in future episodes. I'd like to see them help him save clones and stop whatever Hemlock is up to. Supposedly, there's a clone rebellion in lore, and I do need to do some more research and look into that. I don't know much about it, but honestly, I think it would be kind of cool to see the clones have some kind of fight to at least save themselves. I don't know if I want to see the squad just go join the rebellion. I want their story to stay unique. And as much as it would warm my heart to see Tech return, I think he needs to stay dead. The finale was very impactful. There were a lot of outcomes that changed the tone of this show and shifted it in the right direction plot-wise, in my opinion. Death and loss of any kind puts an emotional weight on everyone, and it is important to keep that going. We gotta stop seeing this.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
So overall, Season 2 was good. I'd rate it an 8.5 out of 10. I'm a fan of the way the season ended, with the story getting to the point and shifting to a more serious tone going forward. Dave Filoni and his team did a tremendous job in Clone Wars and Rebels. I want to see this show have the same success by following the lead of the shows that came before. There's a lot to look forward to in Season 3, and I do think the build-up to finale week was successfully capped off with the final 2 episodes. Yes, we generated more questions than answers, but I think Season 3 will stay more focused on what matters and continue the serious tone that Season 2 ended with. Well, let me know down below what your thoughts are on the finale and Season 2 as a whole, and you know the drill: like the video, subscribe to the channel, and put those notifications on. And a big shout out to the subscribers. This channel grows every day, and I see a little community starting to form, lots of conversations amongst people in the comment sections, and I'm seeing some regulars show up in each video commenting and showing some support. So a heartfelt thank you to those people. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.